If a person sins in hearing the utterance of an oath and is a witness, whether he has seen or known of the matter, if he does not tell it, he bears guilt. Or if
a person sins in hearing the utterance of an oath and is a witness, whether he has seen or known of the matter, if he does not tell, he bears guilt. So you can sin in hearing the utterance of an oath. What does that mean? Like if you break it, if you hear of someone breaking an oath, or am I? Let's see if there's an explanation for this. 5:1. The utterance of an oath. Anyone with information regarding the oath was obligated to come forward and give testimony, regardless of whether the person's information was first-hand or second-hand. If he did not testify, he became guilty and had to bring a purification offering. It was not having the information, but withholding it that made the person guilty. Okay, I mean, the more information, the better, right? So I guess that makes sense. But I mean, I guess that could lead into different things where you have multiple people working together, and they have each other's back, and so they don't. Let's say like one person, let's say your friend commits a crime, and you don't say anything, and if you were there, if you helped, or if you just witnessed it, you don't say anything, right? You can get away with things, right? So this is to prevent that, I'm assuming.
a person touches any unclean thing, whether it is the carcass of an unclean beast, or the carcass of unclean livestock, or the carcass of unclean creeping things, and he is unaware of it, he also shall be unclean and guilty.
Okay, what does unclean mean? Because what we read in Mark was that Jesus said that nothing you can take in you, right, will defile you, right? Nothing you can put into your body will defile you. What defiles you is the way you act, the way you treat other people, your character as an individual, right? So this does not really jive with that, unless I'm not understanding correctly. Let's see. What does unclean mean? The difference between clean and unclean animals is clearly spelled out in chapter 11. Okay. Yes, we understand clean and unclean animals. If a person touches any unclean thing, whether it is touches, not even putting it into your body, whether it is the carcass of an unclean beast or the carcass of unclean livestock, the carcass of unclean creeping things, and he is unaware of it, he also shall be unclean and guilty. Guilty of... He shall all be, but forget the guilty. He shall be unclean. So he shall no longer be pure. Has he been defiled? What are your thoughts about this down below? Let me know, because let's pull that verse from what Jesus said. This is the reason why I wanted to start with Jesus, so that we can build a foundation and then go back, right? Jesus, nothing you put in your... I don't know if this is this is not the right wordage. Mark 7:15. But Mark added a little thing to it, right? Or was it the NIV that added a little thing? I'm not sure. Let's go to... We're reading the New King. Did I pass it? There is nothing that enters a man from outside which can defile him. But there are things which come out of him. Those are the things that defile a man, right? Things that come out of him. Your actions, what you say, how you treat others. That's what defiles you. But there's nothing that enters a man from the outside which can defile him. However, if he, even if he is unaware, if he touches any unclean beast, he shall also be unclean. So now let's look at what does the word unclean mean in the Bible. What does the Bible mean when it says something is unclean? The Hebrew word translated unclean in Leviticus is used nearly 100 times in this one book, clearly emphasizing clean status versus unclean. Animals, objects, food, clothing, and even people could be considered unclean. Okay. So unclean doesn't necessarily mean like it's unhealthy or dirty, right? Or even people, you know what I mean? So it just could be, it's just something bad, a sin, or something something doesn't please God. Something that is unclean. Okay. Let's keep reading. Generally, the Mosaic law spoke of something as unclean if it was unfit to use in worship to God. Okay, there we go. We answered the question right there. Being clean or unclean was a ceremonial designation governing the ritual of corporate worship. For example, there were certain animals, like pigs, considered unclean and therefore not to be used in sacrifices. And there were certain actions, like touching a dead body, that made a living person unclean and temporarily unable to participate in the worship ceremony. Well, not just people, animals also. Leviticus 10:10. We're getting into spoiler territory here, but just for clarification purposes, let's continue. Leviticus 10:10 taught, "You are to distinguish between the holy and common, and between the unclean and the clean." The parallel between holy and clean and common and unclean reveals that the command was related to one's spiritual condition, though physical actions were often involved. Right? Because holy and clean versus common and unclean reveals the command was related to one's spiritual condition. I guess because of the holy and the clean, but the common and unclean, right? So I guess something that is common is not holy, right? It's used, it can be left around, it's everywhere. You're not revering it because it's common, right? Something that's holy is scarce, right? Because you treat it with reverence. Like if you have a really, really rare action figure, you're going to be putting that on a shelf. Probably not even going to take it out of the box. But if it's a common action figure, you can just have it in your little chest of drawers with all your other toys, Certain foods were unclean for Jews and forbidden for them to eat, such as pork, certain fish, certain birds. A skin infection could make a person unclean or unfit for presence at the tabernacle or even in the community. I'm assuming that's alluding to leprosy. We'll find out in Leviticus 13. A house with certain kind of mold was unclean. A woman was unclean for a period of time following childbirth. On holy days, couples were restricted from engaging in sexual activity as the release of am I allowed to say this on YouTube? You can read that. Made them unclean until evening. While a variety of circumstances could make a person, animal, or item unclean, the majority of the laws outlined activities disqualifying a person or animal in connection with tabernacle offerings. An animal offered for sacrifice had to be without defect. The person, we know that you're supposed to sacrifice the best of the best you had, which is why it was a sacrifice, right? The person who offered the sacrifice also had to be clean before the law. The worshiper had to comply with the law and approach God with reverence. In the New Testament, Jesus used the idea of being clean to speak of being holy. In Luke 11:39-41, he said to the Pharisees, "Now then, you Pharisees clean the outside of the cup and dish, but inside you are full of greed and wickedness. You foolish people. Did not the one who made the outside make the inside also? But now as for what is inside you, Be generous to the poor, and everything will be clean for you. So Jesus is again speaking to the bigger picture, right? Don't focus on the surface level. Take a step back and look at what's more important. But the point is of the usage of clean, right? Clean and unclean were concepts very familiar to those under the Old Testament law. God called his people to separate themselves from the impurities of the world. The principle of being clean crosses into the New Testament as well, with the idea of living spiritually pure and seeking to be holy, living a life worthy of our calling. All right, that makes sense. Clean living, right? Like a clean diet and a dirty diet.
Or if he touches human uncleanness, whatever uncleanness with which a man may be defiled, and he is unaware of it,
that's crazy,
when
unaware.
he realizes it, then he shall be guilty.
When he realizes it, then he shall be guilty. Does that include for the previous thing? He is unaware of it, he shall be unclean and guilty, right? But it doesn't say here that he shall be unclean, or if he touches human uncleanness, whatever uncleanness with which a man may be defiled, and he is unaware of it, when he realizes it, then he shall be guilty. Again, so does that make him unclean? It's saying that he shall be guilty, but is he unclean? Maybe, maybe not. So maybe you could touch a human who is unclean and you won't be unclean, but you will be guilty. But why would you be guilty if you're not unclean, right? It's probably unclean. If a person touches any unclean thing, well, I'm guessing because it's in the same paragraph, it means that. So, but that's interesting. So I want to believe that the first part it says, and he is unaware of it, he shall also be unclean and guilty. So does he become guilty only after he realizes it, just like he did in the second part? But here, yeah, I don't know. Let me know your thoughts down below, because this is an interesting topic as well. And let's continue.
Or if a person swears, speaking thoughtlessly with his lips, to do evil or to do good, whatever it is that a man may pronounce by an oath, and he is unaware of it, when he realizes it, then he shall be guilty in any of these matters. And it shall be, when he is guilty in any of these matters, that he shall...
Okay, so because each paragraph is ending with when he realizes it, I'm assuming this is all when he realizes it. So that makes sense, right? God is saying, you will be unclean if you do this, right? So don't do that. God is telling you not to do something. And if you do it, and you realize, even if you did it on accident, you realized you did it, take care of it. But see, it's not, but it means guilty, right? So that means he has sinned, right? Or not necessarily, right? You can be guilty of something, meaning like they did it, right? They have done whatever that act was, right? Like, I am guilty of giving that person a flower. Doesn't mean it's a sin. It means that they have done it, right? So if you do something and you don't realize it, you're not bearing the penalty of what you have done. But once you realize it, you're bearing the penalty. Okay.
confess that he has sinned in that thing, and he shall bring his trespass offering to the Lord for his sin which he has committed, a female from the flock, a lamb, or a kid of the goats, as a sin offering.
Let me go back.
Sin which he has confessed that he has sinned in that thing. When he is guilty in any of these matters. And it shall be, when he is guilty in any of these matters, that he shall confess that he has sinned in that thing.
Okay, never mind. So, these things, it is a sin. It's not right to do these things. It is wrong to do these things. So it's not saying guilty as in putting ownership on the act of the person, right? It is wrong. It is a sin. It is a sin to unknowingly touch something unclean and then realize that you have done so, that is a sin. What is God trying to do here? Is he trying to... I mean, I'm sure they go out and hunt, but no, God is providing for them, right? During all this time with the manna and quail, right? God is still providing for them, right, at this time? So that maybe they shouldn't even have these unclean animals there. Why is there an unclean carcass? Maybe some desert animal, right? As they're traveling along, accidentally touching it. I don't know.
And he shall bring his trespass offering to the Lord for his sin which he has committed, a female.
They're called trespass offerings, right? Trespass. So what does trespass mean, right? Trespass means you're approaching, or you are already on territory that you shouldn't be on, right? I spelled that wrong. Trespass. To commit a trespass, to enter unlawfully upon the land of another, to make an unwarranted or uninvited incursion. So, maybe these carcasses or these unclean people are in areas that you shouldn't even be going. So, that's why you need a trespass offering. Okay. That would make sense. That would make more sense.
A lamb or a kid of the goats as a sin offering. So the priest shall make atonement.
Where is that? If he is not able to bring a lamb, then he shall bring to the Lord for his trespass. And it shall be when he is guilty of any of these matters that he shall confess that he has sinned in that thing, and he shall bring his trespass offering to the Lord for his sin. Okay, so a trespass offering is different than a sin offering, which he has committed. A female flock from the flock and a lamb or kid of the goats as a sin offering. Okay, so it is a sin, but it is also you're also trespassing. So they're two separate offerings. You have to do a sin offering and a trespass offering. Okay, but why two offerings for something so minor, right? If you commit a graver sin like murder, well, you probably be killed, right? But if you commit a sin of the sin of adultery, right? Can you offer a sacrifice, a sin offering, and be abstained of your sin? I don't know. Because that's one of the 10 Commandments, so I don't know if you can.
For him concerning his sin.
I mean, we should probably know that. We read the laws before, right? You probably can't.
Not able to bring a lamb, then he shall bring to the Lord for his trespass which he has committed 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, one as a sin offering and the other as a burnt offering. And he shall bring them to the priest, who shall offer that which is for the sin offering first, and wring off its head from its neck, but shall not divide it completely. Then he shall sprinkle some of the blood of the sin offering on the side of the altar, and the rest of the blood shall be drained out at the base of the altar. It is a sin offering. And he shall offer the second as a burnt offering, according to the prescribed manner. So the priest shall make atonement on his behalf for his sin which he has committed,
a burnt
and it
offering
shall be forgiven him. But if he is not able to bring 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, then he who sinned
a trespass
shall
offering
bring
is
for
the
his
burnt
offering 1/10 of an ephah of fine flour as a sin offering. He shall put no oil on it, nor shall he put frankincense on it, for it
That was
is
by
a
chair,
sin
that wasn't me.
Then he shall bring it to the priest, and the priest shall take his handful of it as a memorial portion, and burn it on the altar according to the offerings made by fire to the Lord. It is a sin offering. The priest shall make atonement for him for his sin that he has committed in any of these matters, and it shall be forgiven him. The rest shall be the priest's as a grain offering.
It's just to keep people in line.
The Lord spoke to Moses.
If a person commits a trespass, and sins unintentionally in regard to the holy things of the Lord, then he shall bring to the Lord as his trespass offering a ram without blemish from the flocks, with your valuation in shekels of silver, according to the shekel of the sanctuary, as a trespass offering.
Okay, if a person commits a trespass and sins unintentionally in regard to the holy things of the Lord, then he shall bring to the Lord as his trespass offering a ram without blemish from the flocks. So this differentiates from what we read just now a little bit. So does he have to still bring do the sin offering as well as the trespass offering? And I mean, all these offerings are pretty confusing, you know? It's a lot of offerings.
And he shall make restitution for the harm that he has done in regard to the holy thing, and shall add 1/5 to it.
Well, I should make note that the word he is using here is offering, not sacrifice, right? Even though, right. So that has to be something important, right? Right? It has to be that has to be something, right? Because you are offering something to God, right? You're trying to please Him, right? That's why it says, and God thought the aroma was sweet. God, the sweet aroma, right? Something like that, right? God thought the aroma of the sacrifice was sweet, meaning like He was pleased, right? So you're offering something to God just to show that, hey, God, I am sorry for what I have done, and I realize what I have done is wrong. Right? That is why these offerings are there. Right? That's the foundation. Right? You're appeasing to God. You're saying sorry and trying to be in His favor.
So the priest shall make atonement for him with the ram of the trespass offering, and it shall be forgiven him. If a person sins and commits any of these things which are forbidden to be done by the commandments of the Lord, though he does not know it, yet he is guilty, and shall bear his iniquity. And he shall bring to the priest a ram without blemish from the flock, with your valuation, as a trespass offering.
Okay, so it's a bit of a tangent, but it's following the same idea. If a person sins and commits any of these which are forbidden to be done by the commandments of the Lord, though he does not know it, yet he is guilty and shall bear his iniquity. Okay, so he is guilty for something that he does not know he did. Right? Wrong. So all the Gentiles are guilty and unclean. So that is why the disciples and the Jews were very shocked that Jesus touched a leper, touched a Gentile, interacted with the Gentile, right? Stayed with those people, unclean people, right? Because you're sinning by doing that. You're becoming unclean by doing that. So that's why it is a huge deal. But Jesus came and did away with all this, right? Because the disciples went and preached to Gentiles and unclean people and healed sicknesses. In order to heal someone who is sick, you have to they touch them, right? And that would make you unclean if you were healing them, right? So I guess we can't go by this today, right? But that's sort of odd, right? Why would God, El Shaddai, give a law that He didn't really mean? Because if He really meant it, or He meant it at this time, right? And then He changed. But God is unchanging. Well, God is unchanging in purpose and motive, right? But actions can change depending on who He is treating and dealing with. I'm thinking out loud here, right? Because the children of Israel here are coming from Egypt. They have no structure, right? They were in bondage for 400 years living under Egyptian law, right? I'm sure they were working on Sabbath probably, right? They probably weren't upkeeping any of the traditions or, you know what I mean? Pharaoh's like, you know what? Forget your tradition. I want you to make some brick right now, right? So they probably weren't keeping up with all of that, which is why God created the 10 Commandments and said, remember the Sabbath day. You got to keep that holy. And he was sort of, reintroducing that to them with the manna and, collect double portion on Friday. So were they sinning? Were they guilty before by not observing Sabbath when they didn't know about it or weren't aware of it or just didn't remember it, right? Or they were told, disregard that, you got to work. Were they guilty? Were they sinners? I mean, we are all sinners, but were they guilty? Did that make them unclean? Did that defile them? Would they enter heaven? Would they enter heaven? Jesus came and said, take all that off. We're going down to the core. Who are you as a person? And that makes sense to me. But again, why is God doing this here? I really think it is probably because, well, then I can't say I really think, right? Because I'm not sure. I'm assuming. I'm not even assuming. I'm just throwing out ideas, actually, because I don't know. If you know, let me know down in the comment section if you have a little bit more insight than I do. But what I'm thinking is it's just for structure for the people, right? They're going through the motions, and they're slowly building up a religion, right? They're holding themselves accountable to themselves and to God, right? It's becoming real to them. This is by having an actual religion, by having laws that they have to follow, they can hold themselves accountable to something, right? And they know God, this is what God wants. And they feel good about themselves when they follow God, when they know that they're doing something that they should be doing, right? So I think that's probably what it is for structure. But let me know what you think about that down in the comment section below. Because I'm trying to think, why else?
So the priest shall make atonement for him regarding his ignorance in which he erred, and did not know it, and it shall be forgiven him. It is a trespass offering. He has certainly trespassed against the Lord.
And the Lord spoke to Moses.
If a person sins and commits a trespass against the Lord by lying to his neighbor about what was delivered to him for safekeeping, or about a pledge, or about a robbery, or if he is extorted from his neighbor, or if he has found what was lost and lies concerning it, and swears falsely, in any one of these things that a man may do in which he sins, then it shall be, because he has sinned and is guilty, that he shall restore what he has stolen, or the thing which he has extorted, or what was delivered to him for safekeeping, or the lost thing which he found for the Lord. And he shall be forgiven for any one of these things that he may have done, in which he trespasses.
Then the Lord spoke to Moses.
Command Aaron and his sons, saying, This is the law of the burnt offering. The burnt offering shall be on the hearth upon the altar all night until morning, and the fire of the altar shall be kept burning on it. And the priest shall put on his linen garment, and his linen trousers he shall put on his body, and take up the ashes of the burnt offering, which the fire has consumed on the altar, and he shall put them beside the altar. Then he shall take off his garments, put on other garments, and carry the ashes outside the camp to a clean place. And the fire on the altar shall be kept burning on it, it shall not be put out. And the priest shall burn wood on it every morning, and lay the burnt offering in order on it. And he shall burn on it the fat of the peace offerings. A fire shall always be burning on the altar. It shall never go out. This is the law of the grain offering. The sons of Aaron shall offer it on the altar before the Lord. He shall take from it his handful of the fine flour of the grain offering, with its oil, and all the frankincense which is on the grain offering, and shall burn it on the altar for a sweet aroma, as a memorial to the Lord. And the remainder of it Aaron and his sons shall eat. With unleavened bread it shall be eaten in a holy place. In the court of the tabernacle of meeting they shall eat it. It shall not be baked with leaven. I have given it as their portion of my offerings made by fire. It is most holy, like the sin offering and the trespass offering. All the males among the children of Aaron may eat it. It shall be a statute forever in your generations concerning the offerings made by fire to the Lord. Everyone who touches them must be holy.
So all the
And
priests,
the Lord spoke to
right,
Moses.
because his sons were, all the males among the children of Aaron may eat it. Right, so they were all priests, right? Or were there other sons that were not priests?
This is the offering of Aaron and his sons, which they shall offer to the Lord, beginning on the day when he is anointed. 1/10 of an ephah of flour as a daily grain offering, half of it in the morning, and half of it at night. It shall be made in a pan with oil. When it is mixed, you shall bring it in. The baked pieces of the grain offering you shall offer for a sweet aroma to the Lord. The priest from among his sons, who is anointed in his place, shall offer it. It is a statute forever to the Lord. It shall be wholly burned. For every grain offering for the priest shall be wholly burned. It shall not be eaten.
Also the Lord spoke to Moses, saying,
Speak to Aaron and to his sons, saying, This is the law of the sin offering. In the place where the burnt offering is killed, the sin offering shall be killed before the Lord. It is most holy. The priest who offers it for sin shall eat it. In a holy place it shall be eaten, in the court of the tabernacle of meeting. Everyone who touches its flesh must be holy. And when its blood is sprinkled on any
Aaron
garment,
and his sons
you
are getting
shall
a
wash
whole
that
meal
on
out of
which
this.
it was sprinkled in a holy place. But the earthen vessel in which it is boiled shall be broken. And if it is boiled in a bronze pot, it shall be both scoured and rinsed in water. All the males among the priests may eat it. It is most holy. But no sin offering from which any of the blood is brought into the tabernacle of meeting to make atonement in the holy place shall be eaten. It shall be burned in the fire.
And it must taste good, right? Because didn't they seasoned it well, like they were giving the best of the best to God.
Likewise, this is the law of the trespass offering. It is most holy. In the place where they kill the burnt offering, they shall kill the trespass offering, and its blood he shall sprinkle all around on the altar. And he shall offer from it all its fat, the fat tail and the fat that covers the entrails, the 2 kidneys and the fat that is on them by the flanks, and the fatty lobe attached to the liver above the kidneys he shall remove. And the priest shall burn them on the altar as an offering made by fire to the Lord. It is a trespass offering. Every male among the priests may eat it. It shall be eaten in a holy place. It is most holy. The trespass offering is like the sin offering. There is one law for them both. The priest who makes atonement with it shall have it, and the priest who offers anyone's burnt offering, that priest shall have for himself the skin of the burnt offering which he has offered. Also every grain offering that is baked in the oven, and all that is prepared in the covered pan, or in a pan, shall be the priest's who offers it. Every grain offering, whether mixed with oil or dry, shall belong to all the sons of Aaron, to one as much as the other. This is the law of the sacrifice of peace offerings, which he shall offer to the Lord. If he offers it for a thanksgiving, then he shall offer with the sacrifice of thanksgiving unleavened cakes mixed with oil, unleavened wafers anointed with oil, or cakes of blended flour mixed with oil. Besides the cakes, as his offering he shall offer leavened bread with the sacrifice of thanksgiving of his peace offering. And from it he shall offer one cake from each offering as a heave offering to the Lord. It shall belong to the priest who sprinkles the blood of the peace offering. The flesh of the sacrifice of his peace offering for thanksgiving shall be eaten the same day it is offered. He shall not leave any of it until morning. But if the sacrifice of his offering is a vow or a voluntary offering, it shall be eaten the same day that he offers his sacrifice. But on the next day, the remainder of it also may be eaten. The remainder of the flesh of the sacrifice on the third day must be burned with fire. And if any of the flesh of the sacrifice of his peace offering is eaten at all on the third day, it shall not be accepted, nor shall it be imputed to him. It shall be an abomination to him who offers it, and the person who eats of it shall bear guilt. The flesh that touches any unclean thing shall not be eaten, it shall be burned with fire. And as for the clean flesh, all who are clean may eat of it. But the person who eats the flesh of the sacrifice of the peace offering that belongs to the Lord while he is unclean, that person shall be cut off from his people. Moreover, the person who touches any unclean thing, such as human uncleanness, an unclean animal, or any abominable unclean thing, and who eats the flesh of the sacrifice of the peace offering that belongs to the Lord, that person shall be cut off from his people.
And the Lord spoke to Moses.
Speak to the children of Israel, saying, You shall not eat any fat of ox or sheep or goat, and the fat of an animal that dies naturally, and the fat of what is torn by wild beasts may be used in any other way, but you shall by no means eat it. For whoever eats the fat of the animal of which men offer an offering made by fire to the Lord, the person who eats it shall be cut off from his people.
I thought it was just in general.
Moreover, you shall not eat any blood in any of your dwellings, whether of bird or beast. Whoever eats any blood, that person shall be cut off from his people.
Then the Lord spoke to
Any blood in relation to a sacrifice? Right, because it said, and the fat of an animal that dies naturally, and the fat of what is torn by wild beasts may be used in any other way, but you shall by no means eat it. For whoever eats the fat of the animal of which men offer an offering made by fire to the Lord, the person who eats it shall be cut off from his people. But the blood, like, is it a blood from an animal that was used in sacrifice, or just in general? But it says dies naturally, and the fat of an animal that dies naturally, and the fat of which is torn by wild beasts may be used in any other way, but you shall by no means eat it. Okay, you still can't eat it. For whoever eats the fat of the animal of which men offer an offering made by fire to the Lord, the men who eat it shall be cut off from his people. Okay, so it's two separate things, but the word "for" is throwing me off here, right? Basically, it's saying you can't eat fat, even if the fat of an animal that dies naturally, and the fat of what is torn by wild beasts may be used in any other way, but you shall by no means eat it. For whoever eats the fat of the animal of which men offer an offering, see, that's different. That is different than dying naturally or be torn up by wild beasts. an offering made by fire to the Lord, the person who eats it shall be cut off from his people. So will you be cut off from your people, or is that only if you eat the offering, the fat from an offering? Right? Because going based off this, it looks like you can't eat blood at all either. But we eat fat. How are you gonna not eat fat? Like there's fat in the meat, in the muscle. Right? Like, I'm guessing ox is like beef, right? Or, like there's fat. There's like, like the marbling. How does that work? Let me know. What do you think? I mean, I get the blood. You can drain the blood and don't eat the blood. And cook the blood away, whatever. Like, drain the blood, don't eat the blood. But the fat? Maybe meaning like you can cook the fat, or cook it down and like have you can't just eat fat. Maybe they're saying don't eat fat because why? Maybe you can use it for lamps and things like that. So you shouldn't eat it because it has so much use, and wasting it, just eating it, you can eat the meat, Maybe in that sense. Let me know. Or did heathen people, like other people, eat fat? Like they ate blood, and that's probably why God is saying don't eat blood, because that's how they act, and we want to be different.
To Moses,
Speak to the children of Israel, saying,
Let me look. Does the Bible forbid the eating of fat? God commanded his children to eat neither fat nor blood, which is found in clean animals, sheep, cows, goats, etc. What we just read here. However, other fats, less harmful. But how'd they cook? Don't you need oil? I mean, they pressed oil, right? Other fats less harmful, which are found in the dairy products, butter, and plants, were allowed as seen in the following references. But what butter? Butter from goat? So aren't you eating essentially goat fat? If you're eating it, the dairy products are from a goat? That's what I'm saying. We're getting too specific. Gotta step back, look at the big picture. But these aren't big picture commandments. That's the thing. They're pretty specific. Genesis 1:29, and God said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed which is upon the face of the earth, and every tree and which is in the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat. Exodus 29:2. Oh wait, we don't need all the seed and stuff. Okay, God created mankind and in his wisdom prohibited the eating of animal fat to avoid disease. A diet high in saturated fat, such as that found in the fat of animals, leads to health impairment, such as cardiovascular disease. Fat cells in the body are also where fat-soluble toxins are stored, such as heavy metal. Whoa, I guess, man, what about the carnivore diet? All the carnivore diet people are going to be like, hold up now. All right. So basically, this is saying God said don't eat animal fat for health reasons. Let's see what someone else says. The fat was reserved for God, right? But is that only from the offerings? I think that was only from the offerings, right? But this makes sense to me here. We all know that God says that the fat is mine, dozens of places in the Old Testament. Do you ever wonder why? And for that matter, why would God ask us to do something that is impossible? And why do I say it's impossible, you ask? Well, every piece of meat that you eat, regardless of where you get it on the animal, has at least some fat in it. That's what I was saying. So while we can eat a lean hamburger, 98% fat-free, we're still eating 2% fat. And that is God's, right? This last question in particular I see is as critically important, because if all we can do is try to avoid the fat, then it sets us in a habit for just trying to do what God wants, when we all know that avoiding all fat is quite impossible, short of being a vegetarian. It sets us to a fatalistic attitude where we accept that we can't succeed and assume God just wants us to do our best, which is terribly debilitating to righteousness and results in people just trying to be righteous, which not surprisingly never works. God never asks you to do something that you cannot fully and completely obey, and avoiding the fat is no exception. See for yourself. Oh, okay, I'm curious. Leviticus 3:14-16. And he shall offer thereof his offering, with even an offering made by fire unto the Lord, the fat that covereth the inwards, and all the fat that is upon the inwards, and the 2 kidneys, and the fat that is upon them, which is by the flanks, and the caul of the liver with the kidneys. It shall he take away, and the priest shall burn them upon the altar. It is the food of the offering made by fire for a sweet savor. All the fat is the Lord's. But this is fat from an offering, though. We were talking about fat of an animal that died naturally, as well as that just got mauled by another animal. So that's a little bit different, right? That verse does plainly say that all the fat is the Lord's, but look at how it prefaces it. It describes the fat that covers the inwards, which I'm assuming, yes. Okay. So even though this is talking about a sacrifice, this is probably, and then it says okay, so it says this fat. Then it says all the fat is the Lord's. So it's not talking about the fat that's in, like the marbling and all that stuff. Okay, makes sense to me. But look at how it prefaces it. It describes a fat that covers the inwards, which includes a deposit known as perirenal fat in modern biology, and the fat that the kidneys and the fat above the kidneys in classical biology. The fatty mass surrounding the liver, the caul, in other words, the visceral fat, the chest cavity fat, as it is now called, is all specifically mentioned. But not mentioned is the subcutaneous under the skin fat, the intramuscular fat. All of the fat you will find in ground chuck will be intramuscular fat. So is the fatty layer that often accompanies shanks and certain steaks. As you read through all of the Old Testament prohibitions against eating the fat, you will never find a mention of intramuscular fat or subcutaneous fat being prohibited or reserved for God, but rather every time that all the fat is mine or a similar statement is made, it has been prefaced with or followed by a definition of all the fat. For example, Leviticus 7:3-4, and he shall offer of it all the fat thereof, the rump, and the fat that covereth the inwards, and the 2 kidneys, and the fat that is on them, which is by the flanks, right? And that the caul that is above the liver with the kidneys, it shall he take away. And in the next verse, all his fat goes undefined. But the verse after connects us back to the previous sacrifice. Leviticus 4:19, and it shall take all his fat from him and burn it upon the altar. And he shall do with the bullock as he did with the bullock for a sin offering. So shall he do with this. How was the fat handled on that sacrifice? And the 2 kidneys of the bullock for the sin offering, and the fat that is upon them, which is by the flanks, and the caul above the liver, with the kidneys, it shall he take away. Again, only visceral fat is mentioned, and that is consistent throughout the Bible. But what does all of it mean? We know which God fat reserved for himself, but we still don't know why, and that is what I want to know. Leviticus 7:22-25. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, speaking unto the children of Israel, saying, Ye shall eat no manner of fat of ox or of sheep or of goat, and the fat of the beast that dieth of itself, and the fat that which is torn with beasts may be used in any other use, but ye shall in no wise eat of it. For whosoever eateth the fat of the beast, of which men offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord, even the soul that eateth it shall be cut from his people. That is one of the key verses on this subject. What exactly does that tell us? It tells us that God is very serious about us not eating the fat. That is clear. And the other verses make it clear that he is speaking of visceral fat. It also tells us that unlike, say, pork, the fat is not unclean because it may be used in any other use. It also tells us that unlike, say, pork, the fat is not... Okay. So fat is not unclean. Pork is unclean. All right. Because it can be used in other things. Pork can't be used in anything. Other uses for fat include soap, grease, candles, waterproofing, and quite a few other things. And finally, that's what I was thinking, because, there's so many other uses for it. There's better uses for it. Don't eat it. And finally, it is interesting to note that God only mentions the fat of oxen, sheep, and goat. It does not mention chicken fat or fish fat. On the issue of fat, they are completely ignored elsewhere as well. Okay, this is a long article. I'm going to put this down in the comment section. Let me just see. All right, here we're talking about blood, right? Let's read this also. This world and the things in it are made after the pattern of heavenly things. Hebrews 8:5 indicates this. Although admittedly, this is not really the context it was in. But we know that we are fashioned in the pattern of God, made in his image, to look just like him. But the world around us is all a part of a master pattern. From what the animals represent to how they were made. It is all part of a big picture. And particularly, those things that God makes as an issue of such as the fat and the blood being reserved for himself have a deeper symbolic meaning. Biologically, the fat is used by the body to store excess energy in good times for hard times. Let us make an analogy. Fat is the money your body needs to survive. When there's a temporary excess of money coming in on payday or harvest season, you will first spend the money on this week's grocery bill, and then you will store the surplus in a bank. Then in the downtime between your next payday, you will draw on that reserve. If you have a well-paying job or low expenses, then you will continue to have an excess every month and save that money for your retirement, children, and grandchildren. And that is, in a nutshell, what fat is designed to do. When you take in more carbohydrates, okay, blah, blah, blah. And now we have enough groundwork laid. I can tell you what fat means and why God chose it for himself. Genesis 45:18. And you take your father and your households, and come unto me, and I will give you the good of the land of Egypt, and ye shall eat of the fat of the land. Fat is considered by many cultures, particularly those in the Middle East, to be a delicacy. Makes sense, right? Eat of the fat of the land, the best of the best. And as we saw, only the visceral fat is prohibited. Here, God promises that they will eat the fat of the land. There is also a dual meaning, because here, the fat, the same Hebrew word is used elsewhere in Leviticus, is pictured as a blessing of a plenty of food and good land, right? Because when you eat plenty, you become fat, right? So the plenty of the land, right? The fat of the land, the excess. There's so much there. Because the fat is one of the end products of metabolism in the body. God uses it to represent the end product of working on good, productive land. In that sense, the fat would also represent the bottles of wine and oil and the barns full of hay and the bins full of grain for the next year. Numbers 18:12. All the best, same word, fat, of the oil and the best, fat, of the wine and all of the wheat and the first fruits of them, which they shall offer unto the Lord, them I have given thee. Here, God uses the same word translated as fat in a metaphoric sense to mean the best portion of something. Obviously, wine is entirely free of fat, so it has no fat in the literal sense. And here, God was giving the best, the fat of the land, to the sons of Levi. And now comes the fascinating part. Numbers 18:20-21. And the Lord spake unto Aaron, Thou shalt have no inheritance in their land, neither shalt thou have any part among them. I am thy part and thine inheritance among the children of Israel. And behold, I have given the children of Israel, the children of Levi, all the 10th in Israel for inheritance, for their service which they serve, even the service of the tabernacle, of the congregation. Levi, later on in the same chapter, after going through all the things God had given to the tribe of Levi, he sums it up in the word tenth, the tithe. It is the tithe that the fat represents. There is another, even stronger proof of this. Okay. And I've given the children of Levi all the tenth in Israel for inheritance. But why does that mean fat? You're giving the fat to the children of Israel? The access? No. The plenty of... I don't know. I don't really know that this means tenth means fat. Tithe means fat. I don't really know if that's what it's saying. Let me know what you guys think. Ezekiel 34:3, ye eat the fat, and ye clothe you with the wool. Ye kill them that are fed, but ye feed not the flock. This was a parable meant to condemn bad ministry, who is concerned with fleecing the flock and not with shepherding it and keeping sin out of it. As part of the condemnation, he accuses them of being clothed with the wool, not a sin, obviously, and of eating the fat, which, as long as it wasn't the visceral fat, wasn't a sin either. But the fat is represented again as the tithes and money which was fleeced from the sheep and God's flock. Ye eat the fat, and ye clothe you with the wool, and ye kill them that are fed, but ye not feed the flock. Eat of the fat means eat of the excess, eat of the plenty. And ye clothe you with the wool, and ye kill them that are fed, but ye feed not the flock. So you take care of yourself. What do you mean kill the fed, kill that are fed? I need some context here. This was a parable meant to condemn bad ministry, who was concerned with the fleecing the flock and not with shepherding it. Okay, that makes sense. And keeping sin out of it. As part of the condemnation, he accuses them of being clothed with the wool, not a sin, obviously, and eating the fat, which as long as blah, blah, blah. But the fat is represented again as the tithes. And the money, I don't know. I don't know about that. Yeah, okay. Let's continue reading because I'm curious. This was a parable meant to condemn. Okay, we just read that. So here's the conclusion. As God blesses a righteous person or nation, they accumulate excess, called in the Bible increase. As a healthy body grows on good food, it accumulates a healthy excess, which it stores back, called fat. As a righteous person saves back this increase, God requires that a tenth be saved back as tithe and given to him. But here's the thing. The tenth that is tithe is not necessarily coming from the fat, the increase, the excess. Right? If you're living paycheck to paycheck, God still wants you to give a tenth. Like the woman who gave the 1 pence, all that she had, right? God blessed her. So I don't see why it is tied to... So just because you're giving of the tenth, right? And you most likely have an increase because you need to spend money to survive, to buy food, and that's part of your increase, right? You have the money, you pay your bills, your taxes and all that, and then what's left over, right, is what you can save, right? But here's the thing. You're not paying the tenth from what you saved. You're paying the tenth off the income. So I don't know if I really follow what this guy's saying. I don't know if I can... let me know what you guys think down below. Numbers 18:17. Burn their fat for an offering made by fire, for a sweet savor unto the Lord. God required the Levitical priesthood to burn on the altar all visceral fat. That was God's portion, his tithe of the animal. I mean, the whole animal, you're offering it to God. But I guess Aaron and the priest could eat of it, right? So they couldn't eat of the fat. So you're offering the... So wait. If the fat is a tithe to God, right? That's God's portion. Then what is the animal? Isn't that God's portion? Aren't you offering the entire animal to God, right? Or are you offering it to the priests because they're eating it? Why is the fat God's portion? The entire thing should be God's portion. I mean, there were some offerings that they had to completely burn through, but there's some offerings that the priest can eat, right? The fat that was removed was a lump portion of energy which the animal, thanks to God's blessing, had been able to save up, and which God took as his tithe of that animal. I don't get it. That whole animal is God's. They're offering it to God. But then that's why the priest eating it doesn't make any sense. Because are you offering it to the priests, and then God gets a tithe of that offering, which is the fat, and the rest go to the priests? Because that does not make sense to me. Why are we offering to the priests? The fat can't be a tithe to God. It can't. If you're looking at it that way. If the fat is the tithe to God, that's what you're offering to God. Okay, wait. Is the fat the tithe and the offering to God? So you're compelled to give the fat. And the offering, you're just offering it. But the only time you would give the tithe is when you're offering. Right? Because the tithe comes from the offering. It's not every quarter or every month you're giving fat to God, even if you're not doing offerings. Right? The tithe comes from the offering. The fat pictures of God's blessing of an animal and a people. The fat pictures God's blessing of an animal and a people. Most of that fat and that blessing is ours to keep, but the visceral fat is representative of God's portion, and eating that is stealing from God. Malachi 3:8. And whoever eats it will be cut off from Israel. Leviticus 7:25. Pretty simple, really. So don't think twice about that 2% in your hamburger. Okay. I don't know. Oops, what did I do? I think this is going to get into the health benefits. Yeah. Why did God want the fat of the animals? I'm fine with that. God wants the fat of the animals, but does this Bible have an explanation? 7:22. No, the fat was just considered the best portion of the sacrificial animal. As such, it belonged to God. Nope. Doesn't mention. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down below. Yeah. Because that is... Yeah, I'm not sure if I 100% agree with what this guy was saying. Who wrote this article? I don't know. But it's from thesimpleanswers.com.
He who offers the sacrifice of his peace offering to the Lord shall bring his offering to the Lord from the sacrifice of his peace offering. His own hands shall bring the offerings made by fire to the Lord. The fat with the breast he shall bring, that the breast may be waved as a wave offering before the Lord. And the priest shall burn the fat on the altar, but the breast shall be Aaron's and his sons'. Also the right thigh you shall give to the priest as a heave offering from the sacrifices of your peace offerings. He among the sons of Aaron who offers the blood of the peace offering and the fat.
So you're giving the heave offering, and also the right thigh you shall give to the priest. You're giving it to the priest as an offering. So does that mean you're offering it to the priest? And not to God? You shall give to the priest as a heave offering from the sacrifices of your peace offerings. Okay, so from the sacrifices of your peace offerings. Okay. I think I'm getting offerings and sacrifices mixed up. So sacrifices are to God, and offerings are to the tabernacle, Aaron, and all that, which is why Aaron can eat it. And that sort of makes sense because we give offerings to the church to spread ministry. But I mean, you can't really spread ministry with fat and breast meat, right? So, but you can provide food for the priests. I guess because they're busy doing their priestly duties, they can't go out and catch quail and all that stuff, but their wives can. So, there's just a way of God rewarding the priests for their duties.
Who offers the blood of the peace offering and the fat shall have the right thigh for his part. For the breast of the wave offering and the thigh of the heave offering.
Okay, so are the offerings to the institution, right? The tabernacle, the priests, which is why the fat is God's portion of that. Only God's. And that would make sense with the tithe, right? So the offerings are not for God. You're not offering to God. You're offering to the institution. And sacrifices are to God. Let me know.
I have taken from the children of Israel, from the sacrifices of their peace offerings, and I have given them to Aaron the priest.
I have taken from the children of Israel for the breast of the wave offering and the thigh of the heave offering. I have taken from the children of Israel, from the sacrifices of their peace offerings, and I have given them to Aaron and the priest and to his sons from the children of Israel by a statute forever. Okay, so you are offering to God, and God has made the law, made a statute saying, what you are offering me, I'm giving to the priests. But that fat is mine.
And to his sons from the children of Israel by a statute forever.
Okay.
This is the consecrated portion for Aaron and his sons, from the offerings made by fire to the Lord on the day when Moses presented them to minister to the Lord as priests. The Lord commanded this to be given to them by the children of Israel on the day that he anointed them, by a statute forever throughout their generations. This is the law of the burnt offering, the grain offering, the sin offering, the trespass offering, the consecrations, and the sacrifice of the peace offering, which the Lord commanded Moses on Mount Sinai, on the day when he commanded the children of Israel to offer their offerings to the Lord in the wilderness of Sinai.
All right, that's it for chapter 7. I just want to look at this, right? And the fat of an animal that dies naturally, and the fat of which is torn by wild beasts may be used in any other way, but you shall by no means eat it. Okay. Okay. All right. So that makes sense to me. Okay. So the fat, right? He's just saying, don't eat that fat, right? That fat, right? Even that fat is God's, even if the animal dies naturally or be torn up by wild beasts, right? But in regards to offerings, when you give an offering, you are giving the offering to God, and then God is giving a portion of that offering to Aaron and his sons, and he's keeping the fat for himself. Okay, and that 10th, right? Let's go back to that article. In Numbers, and behold, I've given the children of Israel, all the 10th of Israel for inheritance. Right? Well, and thou spake unto Aaron, thou shalt have no inheritance in their land, neither shalt thou have any part among them. I am thy part and thine inheritance among the children of Israel. And behold, I have given the children of Levi all the 10th in Israel for inheritance, for their service which they serve, even the service of the tabernacle and of the congregation. Well, it doesn't explicitly say that that fat, right? And I've given the children of Israel all the 10th. I've given the children of Israel all the 10th in Israel for an inheritance. Yeah, so that's not, the 10th is the tithe, but that is not fat, right? Because you're giving the 10th to the children of Israel. I have given the children of Levi all the 10th in Israel for inheritance. So yeah, I don't think I agree with this guy. But yeah, that's it. So you're offering to God, and God is giving a portion to Aaron and his sons and keeping the fat for himself. No one else gets that. Okay, we cleared it up. And all right. So yeah. All right. So that's what an offering is, right? And you're finding grace in God, right? You do something wrong, you offer to God, appease him, and he smells that sweet aroma, which means he's pleased, right? And it helps the priests and his sons, right? They're getting food so they can run the establishment, the institution that is the tabernacle and all that, continue to do the offerings and everything. So it just keeps everything running, right? But then also, that's why God gave the portion to Aaron and his sons, on top of as a payment for their duties. But you're offering to God because you have done something wrong, right? And you're offering to God, saying, hey, I'm sorry. Here's something I'm giving to you, right? When you do something wrong to somebody, you say sorry, give them a gift or something like that. Same thing. Okay. All right. So we clear that up. All right. So that's it for today. Tomorrow we're going to jump into 8. Let's see what 8 is about. Okay. Aaron and his sons consecrated. All right. So we're going to get to, right, which is going through all of the building of the tabernacle, all of the parts of the tabernacle, right? The different types of sacrifices and offerings, and then now we're getting down to it. Aaron and his sons are going to be consecrated, and we're going to get the show on the road in Leviticus 8. So I'll see you guys tomorrow as we continue reading in this Bible Study with Me live session series, and I'll see you guys later. Take care.